Check, 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 check. Check, 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 check. Check, 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 check. Check, 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 check.
I don't know, Joe. I think you know. Whoever you said I was gonna be. As long as you didn't say.
Hello, hello. All right. Good morning. All right. Morning. How we doing? Good. Good. No, thank you. Yeah. Good to see you all in person.
So what do you start out with the number one draft pick? What do you like about Dalton?
I love his approach, right now. It's been great. Just coming in, eager to learn, eager to just build a foundation more so than anything. And I think that's important, We're nowhere close to knowing exactly, hey, this is what the big picture is going to be, because we have to learn him and he has got to learn us in a lot of ways too, within the system and within what we can do and within the direction we're going, and where we can expand things and where we can utilize him. So, how we're going to use them, where we're going to use them, all those questions and all those things, that really is to be determined, and you won't get a great feel of it as coaches until we really start getting into training camps and games and live actions and those types of things.
What did you think of your middle of the field problem at the end of last season?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're always looking to attack all areas of the field, and I think that's something you definitely want to continue to do. I think that's something that is a important piece to to an offense, to make sure we're not being one-dimensional in any way, and making sure that we can attack different areas of the field as much as possible. So I think that there was a lot of good in that last year in a lot of ways, and we'll continue to try to grow on that and continue to try to make sure that we're keeping a defense off balance on how we're attacking them.
What did you like about Damian Harris?
Mm-hmm.
Fits in your scheme, and also just a follow-up with Davis Murray, same question.
Yeah, I think both those guys provide a physical nature to them, with still the ability to create big plays with their speed, and I think I'm excited to see them. I think there's a lot of excitement when you get those new types of pieces, and trying to figure out how to blend those together with the pieces that you already have, and I think they're as important to that as any other guy we've acquired and is new to our offense. So I'm excited about those guys and that competition in that room. I think we got a really good room right there between the guys that we've had there and then the guys that we've brought in, and both those guys I think are going to be really competing for those different spots and those different opportunities. I'm really excited about them.
Coach, you've had a chance to see Coach McDermott as a play caller
Mm-hmm.
together in Carolina. How would you characterize his style, just in general, like just from what you observed there, maybe what we should anticipate?
No, yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, everybody grows and everybody kind of evolves, and I think Coach is no different than that. I think he's going to evolve, and because he's seen a lot of ball since then, and a lot of different situations, and I think being the head coach and being able to see that big picture is only going to help him in this role that he's undertaking this year. I think that's going to be a big advantage for him, to be able to think not only as the defense play caller but big picture at the same time. I think that'll help him as a play caller, and I think obviously he's done great things in the past, and operate a defense in many different ways. And I think one of the best things that he does is, when you look at his time, whether it's back in Philadelphia or his time in Carolina or here, it's always adapted to the type of personnel that he's had. And he's always grown and really kind of done a great job of saying, hey, we've got, this skill set that's, that we could build around, or this skill set that we could build around. He's constantly looking to grow and adapt his defense based off of what he has.
I know in a practice setting, he tends to make life difficult for you
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. He did that as a head coach.
Yeah.
Knowing the competitor that you are, the competitor that he is, has it already gotten pretty competitive out there?
Uh, No, I mean it always is, no matter what. I mean that's just that's part of ball, and I think that's part of being successful in this business. I think if you're not in it to, be successful, and you're not in it to go out and want to win every day in practice, then, where's the buy-in for your players? Where's the buy-in for your guys? So I think that's a lot of fun about it. As there's some competitive nature involved. No matter what the situation is, I think that adds a lot of fun to it.
Ken, going back to Babbich, how do you adapt and going back to the Kane, how do you begin to adapt with your offense with these new additions? And there seems to be a perception out there that you're very tight end friendly, going back to your college days with Shockey and Winslow. Does this maybe make up better fit what you're comfortable with?
No, I mean, I felt very comfortable with what we were doing last year. I mean, I felt very comfortable what we were doing, 2 years ago when Daves was here, and just I think that's what I definitely learned from Daves is just the adaptability of what you do on offense. It's constantly evolving, it's constantly changing, and you're constantly adjusting certain things based to the personnel that you have, and so I think that's all part of where we're going right now. It's that process of learning what you have a little bit and building that foundation. So I really don't. I think the critical thing here is not rushing to make a decision right now on this is what it's going to be. I think we have to grow, and we have to learn those pieces, and they've got to learn our system, because we want them to learn the foundation first and build that strong foundation that they can rely on, whether it's technique, schematics, reps with Josh, reps with our quarterbacks, and just seeing coverages and those different things that they might not have been accustomed to, whether it's Dalton in college or Cyrus in college or these guys from other systems. I think those reps are great for us.
There seemed to be a perception last year that the offense, it became harder for the offense to produce as the year progressed. Maybe, it looked harder than it did in the first half of the season. I may be wrong, you have the figures. But how do you gain towards getting the offense working at a peak in that second half of the season versus, where it was early in the season?
I think the biggest thing is, one, finding ways to win football games is the mission of every team and every offense, whether it's by 1 point or more than 1 point. That's the most critical factor. And each game is going to be different, whether you have to run the ball more, whether you have to throw the ball more, whether it's a tight game, whether it's not a tight game, whether you have to come from behind or play with the lead. I think the most critical factor is just figuring out those ways as a football team to, learn how to win football games in different ways. And I think that's as important as anything. So every year is different. Every year takes shape. Every year's, because of the year of free agency and draft and everything like that. It's the nature of the business that you see year in and year out, whether it's our teams that we're playing next year, teams within the division, all that stuff, so it's definitely an evolution,
So with that being said, Coach, with the offseason acquisitions and the draft picks, do you better plan on having a more balanced attack in this offense this year?
I mean, I think what we're going to look to do is try to win games however we see fit, however that comes up, whether it's running the ball, throwing the ball. That's never going to change in philosophically for us and what we're going to do. You want to attack defenses in as many different ways as possible. And, I think that something we pride ourselves on is, yes, being able to run the ball, being able to throw the ball and do those different things. I don't think you really saw, stretches, throughout the year last year where we weren't a multifaceted offense that's able to attack in different ways.
And with the weapons, you have the necessary weapons to fix the issues that you had in the red zone last year. You feel that you have the necessary weapons?
I think we've got, we're really building and going in the right direction. I think, again, we're continuing to learn and grow as we go here, and we're learning those pieces to continue to grow as an offense, whether it's, red zone, field, third down, 2 minute, whatever that might be. Right now, I think we're in the process of really trying to, develop what our identity is going to be.
Ken, when you talk about growing, and you've used that phrase a few times, when you're off season, how did you look at it from a personal standpoint and the way you coached last year? Do you look back, is it scheme that you look at? Do you look at some of your own processes and say, in the season, that's maybe tough to change? Do you look at it that way
Yeah.
when you're doing self-scouting?
That's a great question. I think you look at it in multiple different ways. One, I think that we really pride ourselves on and pride ourselves in offense on is one is the fact that, we really feel like we take the identity of what this city, what this organization, what Western New York's all about. And that's we're going to come out and we're going to grind, and we're going to work hard, and we're going to, no matter what, if we get punched, we're going to come back swinging, the next game, the next whatever, and I think that's what, the Buffalo area, the Western New York, what our fans, what, Bill's Mafia is all about. I mean, everybody out there has been at some point, gotten punched, gotten their nose bloodied, and that's what I love about this area. It's an area that doesn't quit. It's an area that just continues to find a way. And I think, we'd want to do everything in our power to make sure we're embodying that, and that's what we want to be about. So I think that's one thing. I think that you really look at and you want to make sure that you're embodying in your players. The other thing you look at is, yes, you look at what you did. You go back and, you go through a process with your coaching staff and then on your own as a coordinator and say, okay, in this situation, do I like what we're doing here? Do I think this was effective? Do I like what we did in this game plan? Do I think that, we were too aggressive in this situation, or were we not aggressive enough? All those different scenarios you want to go back and evaluate and learn from.
And
Yes.
Ken, when you're sitting in that draft room and Kincaid's name is the guy that's gonna come up to you and they're gonna make the pick, are you immediately thinking, after I'm sure you watched a bunch of his tape, are you thinking this is a guy that we could really use in that Kelsey type of role, that, he's just a different slot receiver, that you got little short guys like Beasley and McKenzie. Are you thinking that in the draft room, like, this is a piece I can really do something with?
I think as part of the evaluation process, you're constantly trying to evaluate how you see guys fit into your system, and how you could grow your system with that individual. I think, it's an important part of coaching to make sure that, you don't pass up a player that can help you win football games just because he doesn't quite fit in your system. So can we evolve the system to make sure that we're not doing that, and do some different things. So I think those are all things that you look at, is how he's going to fit, how are the different ways you can use guys like that throughout every evaluation, whether it's Dalton, whether it's Osiris, whether it's guys that we didn't draft that we still looked at, and that's part of the process, is to have that vision, but then, having the flexibility to when he gets here, it's like, okay, well, he can do this, he can't do that, and having that, having those different conversations as well as you continue to grow. But I do think as you go through the draft process, you're constantly evaluating guys in terms of, hey, here are the different ways that he could fit, here's the different things that we can do, so that you have a vision that you could communicate not only to Sean, but to Brandon and those guys, so that they can then make the best decision moving forward during the draft.
What you learned from that playoff loss versus Cincinnati, did the league have had enough taste to come out basically to fuel the fire for this year?
I mean, I think every year that you've finished a season and it doesn't finish the way you want to, you're always motivated for the next year. So I think that's always the case. I think that's what I love about this group is it's a motivated group. It's a group that definitely wants to come out and has been eager and chomping at the bit to start getting to work and getting back out there. And and again, I think that's what we try to embody. We try to embody that mentality that I feel like this area, this fan base, this region has, is of, no matter what happens, we're going to come back out and keep fighting. We're going to keep swinging no matter what, and that's what we're going to do. That's all we know. That's all I know. And that's all that I want my guys to know.
Ken, when you were saying that about your self-evaluation, how's that process work? Are you running that by somebody else? Is that you
In terms of just the film that you're watching and whatnot? Yeah, no, I think there's multiple ways you do it. You know, and I try to look at through different lenses. You try to look at through specific scenarios with your coaching staff. We went through and you know, watched the different concepts we're running in different scenarios, whether it's first, second down, third down, red zone, all those different things. You know, and we go through that process, which takes a little time, both run and pass game. And then you go through it yourself or, you know, in terms of watching each game, and you kind of go through each game and make sure and kind of see how the games unfold and those different, you know, those different ways and try to learn from that as well.
And how hard is it to be honest with yourself in terms of something, you know what I mean, where you can be, is that something that's developed where you look at something and you go, it's got to be better, or I didn't like what I did there? Is that?
I think that's what coaching is. You know, coaching is being honest, not only with your players, but yourself, you know, and making sure that, you know, if you didn't like something and there was times where it's like, okay, we could probably, you know, get away from what we were doing here, this, you know, whether it's a play or whatever, and kind of get to something else. And, you know, and I think you look at those things, whether it was via efficiency, whether it was via, you know, success rate or anything like that, you know, and look at it and evaluate it. And if it's not something that fits our personnel, fits our identity, then, you know, we're not going to run as much. If it is, then we're going to continue to grow. But I think those are things that every coach looks at and is honest with themselves. And I think at least that's something we pride ourselves on. And, we'll continue to do that. That's an ongoing process, you know, throughout the year and throughout whether it's during the year or throughout the rest of this off season.
Ken, what's your perception of the self-awareness that we've seen? It looks like Josh has arrived here with a bit more self-awareness, saying he's not getting any younger, the window isn't going to be open forever, and that there's a focus and determination about him. What do you see in him as he gets a year older?
I mean, I think as players continue to grow and you know, continue to get older, you know, I mean, obviously their experience changes and what they've done. I think you see that throughout, you know, all players in the league. You know, they're going to take it a different approach in year 5, 6, 7 than they are in year 1. You know, because I mean, when you get out there as a quarterback, you know, in the first year, you could just start, you know, winging it around, you know, then all of a sudden in year 5 and 6, you got to start warming up and doing those things to make sure your body's ready to go for practice, you know, and those types of things. So, you know, I think it's one of those things you always challenge your players that no matter how many years in the system, you always want to start like it's new. You always want to start and take a fresh outlook to it. Because if you do, there's always something you can learn. There's always something, a detail that maybe you can add that maybe you didn't learn, you know, you didn't know before or you didn't realize before or whatever it is, you know. And I think that growth mindset is important for Josh, for every player out there, you know, because as a coach, you want guys, no matter what year in the league they are, you want guys that want to learn and want to improve and want to get better. And I think that's the great thing about Josh is he takes that mentality year in, year out. And, you know, I think he's come in this year with that same type of mentality and wanting to get better, wanting to continue to grow his game and grow as a player.
Is there anything specifically this offseason you've seen Josh doing that's different than what he's done in off seasons past? Like, is there anything that Sean said, you know, you noticed a difference in Josh's approach this off season? Is there anything specific you've noticed?
You know, I think it's been great kind of getting the OTAs and those things back together, because now, you know, you can kind of sit down and in that time frame and have those conversations about, you know, hey, here's what I was thinking in this scenario, you know, and then that feedback of what were you thinking, where, you know, and that those types of conversations, you know, and just, you know, getting down to, hey, what did you see? What did you, you know, what were you thinking in those different areas? And you know, those types of conversations I think are great to have with him, you know, and because as a play caller, you want to be on the same page as a quarterback. And I think when we go back and look at it, a lot of the times we really were. And I think as we continue that process, things are going to come up, and there's going to be things where it's like, hey, I'm not comfortable running this, which is fine. You want that honest feedback from him to make sure that we're running stuff that he's supremely comfortable with, because one, he's the guy doing it, and then two, a lot of times he's got a good feel for kind of what those other guys, are feeling as well. So those types of open and honest communication and conversations have been great to have with them.
Do you feel like, just to clarify on that, do you feel like he's been more vocal than like saying those things than compared to last year?
I think just that comfort level now in year two, it continues to get better. Even though I've been here and everything, but as a quarterback coach, I think when you are learning new coordinator and new play caller and that type of thing, there is time to kind of grow and develop, and so I think that comfort level continues to grow, that communication, because like I'm the type of person I love having that input. I love having that input from him. I love that input from the guys, whether it's him, Gabe, Josh, Steph, any of those guys, Dawson, guys up front, Dion, Mitch, all those guys. Like, you want that input, because when you do, it's a lot easier to build and call plays that they're supremely confident in. All right, thank you, guys.
Yeah, I think the only difference right now for us is, there's the in-game things that obviously he's going to be calling the plays, but nothing's really changing. He was very involved from the beginning. He's a defensive coach. He obviously has a very good defensive coordinator background, so he was always heavily involved. And for the most part, it was a collaborative effort most of the time. And we do things. And we did things as a group, and I'm sure that'll continue.
Have you seen him? He said that he feels excited, though, to be getting, even if it's not way more involved, it's not just a little more. Have you sensed that from him?
Yeah, he definitely is. I've been with him. This is, I believe, my 9th year between Carolina and now here. And, yeah, it's pretty cool to see. He's got a little bit of an excitement, and, he's back in the room full time per se, and so it's cool to see. And it's also, I know he's really enjoying being in front of the defense more. He's always been in front of the team. He's always been in front of the defense, but there's more of it with him in front of the defense, which is really cool to see.
Does it kind of remind you of like his energy from when he was in DC and Carolina? Is it similar to that? Is it kind of like a whole new?
Yeah, I mean, I would say Sean has changed since I first met him in 2011, and it's for the better. Sean's very transformational. He's always looking to get better, which is something I really respect about him. He will ask people where a lot of bosses might not ask, how they can improve. And he's awesome with those type of things. So he's a lot different right now than I remember him the first time I met him in 2011, and in a great way. It's really cool to see just him back up in front of the defense on a full-time basis, and I can kind of see it in his face and his demeanor and those type of things. So.
What are you looking for from a starting Mike linebacker?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that you look for with us specifically, with the Bills, the hardest thing for our guys is the operation and what we want to do. Obviously, we just lost a player who had 5 years of the operation, right? Anytime you go into a job, you're trying to perform a task, the more repetition that any of us have at what we're doing, shoot, me taking over as a linebacker coach last year, the more repetitions, the better I got. So the operation and making sure that our defense can function through the way the Mike linebacker gets us into a defense, potentially sets a front, sets this, sets that, so we can operate at a high level. That's the hardest thing. And I think the other thing, and I believe Sean and Brandon have talked about it, is we want football players. We don't care what they look like. We don't care what the measurables are. We don't care. We want football players that can play football, because you can look at the 40s, you can look at, the bench and all the combine things, but once that ball's snapped, a lot of those things do apply and a lot of them don't apply. So if you talk about the instinctual aspect of things, or just having that feel for the game and that knowledge for the game, those are a couple things I think that you look for right away in a Mike, so they can play fast and play free once they master those operation type things, if that makes sense to you.
How much challenging would it be to replace a guy like Tremaine?
I think just in general, at any position, when you have to replace someone that's had a ton of reps and a ton of experience and has been fairly healthy, there's obviously going to be growth that has to happen through that, which for me is exciting, right? I look at it as we've got a lot of players that are vying for a position, to your point, that for 5 years someone had occupied, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's 5 years, had occupied and took most of the reps. So there is a challenge, but I think challenge versus opportunity is the biggest thing. There's a great opportunity for a lot of good football players to be able to step into that role, and they have done a great job. A lot of them have prepared themselves to be ready for an opportunity like this, as opposed to a challenge. You know what I mean? And Brandon and Sean have done a great job of, in our scouting department, of acquiring those type of players where they can kind of fit in and look at it as an opportunity and not a challenge.
Going back to your previous answer, you look for football players more than size, speed. Right?
Yeah.
Matt Milano isn't the biggest guy.
That's right.
But his instincts maybe are his best.
Right.
So Bernard in the middle, I mean, how much of a worry is he's not, 245? What do you think about playing a guy that size in the middle?
Right. I think when you look at just size overall, at any position, right, you might, we've all seen it, you might have a player that fits the prototype but doesn't play that size. You might have the player that doesn't fit the prototype size, but you hear it all the time, they play bigger. So to me, it's about, when you look at it, what's on the tape. It's not what does that person look like, it's what is on the tape and what is showing up on the tape. So to me, I try to take pride in blinding myself away from, if this person was just a shadow on the tape, you couldn't see size, you couldn't see anything, what does that shadow look like when the ball is snapped? And I think if you can do that, you'll find yourself a lot of times with hopefully the right player, and not necessarily, for lack of a better word, the sexiest player, if that makes sense to you.
Bobby, how much of a challenge is it going to be, because you have arguably a handful of candidates for that
Yep.
role? You have a finite amount of time before you have to decide on one person to run your defense. I mean, it's not just plugging in a starter, it's a guy that's also got to run your defense. So how much of a challenge do you and your defensive staff think that'll be to whittle it down, maybe from 4 to 3? Do we have a drop dead date to get to 2?
Right.
You gotta, at some point in time, get the starter ready for the season.
Right, and I think I believe the way that you approach that, and we have a process we're going through right now with how we do practice and those type of things. To be honest with you, I think if you set a hard line date, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. I think this is going to be a situation where once we decide that player X is going to be our starter at that position and has earned the job and won the job, I don't think you could put a date on that. I think obviously Sean has final say on it. But like I said, we do things in a collaborative way. So obviously he's going to take some of my input. Al Holcomb's here. Shame on us if we don't use Al as another resource who's coached linebackers for a long time and has coordinated. And the more sets of eyes you can get on the situation, and then I think what'll happen naturally is there will be a conclusion at some point. I don't think it's worth setting a date. I don't think that's advantageous for anybody. I think the decision on who will be the day one starter in September, it'll come when it comes, and we'll know, and our guys will have plenty of reps, and we do things very methodically here. So it's not like we're just throwing random guys out there. We're paying attention to the number of reps they're getting, the actual number of reps they're getting at a Mike versus a Will. All those type of things go into it, and it is a very thought-out process, if you will.
When it comes to Shane Ray, does he fall into your room?
He does not.
Okay.
He does not.
Never mind.
Yes. I will not comment on him.
Started a lot of games in the state, including for Sean in Carolina. How beneficial is his experience for some of those younger guys in that room?
Let me say this about A.J. Klein. What's amazing to me about A.J. is obviously he's been in the league a long time. You know, as you get older, you'll run into some players that will try to protect their job, if that makes sense to you. So they're going to try to protect against somebody potentially taking their job, right? Every day we go in there, I tell the guys, all you guys are going after each other's jobs. But what's unique about that room, and specifically AJ, is that there's no insecurity. AJ's there to help. He's seen a lot of football. He's played a lot of football. He's played with a lot of good football players in a lot of different organizations. And he's been nothing but tremendous and is there as a helping hand for those guys. And in meetings, it's really good because he'll ask questions that maybe some people won't ask. They don't feel comfortable asking, or maybe it's a next level kind of thought as we go through it. So he's been tremendous, awesome. And, you know, all these guys are good players, but the thing we got good people, and AJ's a great person.
How much did you study Dorian leading up to the draft, and what are the things that you like and things that you think you can bring to your team?
Yeah, I think I did a lot of research on Dorian, as we did for a lot of the linebackers that were in the draft. And I think the thing about Dorian, when I watched him, is that we talk about matchup guys here a lot. And ideally, the way the game's going, if you can have two matchup linebackers, that is very beneficial. And I think we saw that over the last couple of years. But Dorian, not only is he a matchup type player and has that skill set that can allow him to match up, but you know, when you talk about the type of person he is, what he's made up of, he is an intelligent player, and then obviously the physical character. He's a physical player, you know, and he showed that on tape. Now the NFL, he's got to show that in the NFL, and OTAs isn't a time to do that. It's not a physical time. So, you know, all those things we kind of lump and look for. I think Dorian had most of them, if not all of them. So.
When you mention the mechanics of the job, does it have to be one guy in terms of like, do you have to settle on a guy, and or does it open up? You know, the guys who plugged in Jermaine for a ton of snaps, knew he's there every week. Does it open up, maybe not specific to that, maybe different formations or things you could work around, where it's not one guy getting all those snaps, or does the mechanics part of it, you need that guy that's the play caller, he's in there all the time.
So are you talking about games? Are you talking about games? Are you talking about practice? Games. Yeah, so I mean, ideally, and we believe that the green dot is the Mike linebacker. He's in control of a lot of things. Ideally, in any system, in anything you're doing in football, you have a system where you don't have to do a lot of substituting, if that makes sense to you. So, for instance, if I gain 200 reps versus that formation, where maybe now you whittle that down to 50 because you're subbing certain people in and out of things, repetition builds the confidence in what you're doing. There's no substitute for game repetition. So in an ideal world, the same players are on the field and you can do a lot of different things. Obviously, you're not pigeonholed or pegging yourself to do only certain things because this player can only do certain things, if that makes sense to you. So in an ideal world, you have versatile players at every position where you never have to substitute. You know what I mean? And you're building that rep count. You're building that muscle memory with whatever call Sean decides to call. Because I've seen that 1,000 times, I can execute this one thing at a very high level, as opposed to getting 20 people in there where they don't get a lot of reps and you're trying to execute that one thing on less repetition, if that answers your question. You got it.
He's listed as a linebacker.